Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Bissett. I'm the chairman of the Lord Byron Foundation, and we're holding this press conference today because events that are taking place in Serbia with the possibility of the Albanians in Kosovo declaring unilateral independence is of great concern to not only the people of Serbia and the government of Serbia, but many other people around the world. And the Lord Byron Foundation has been concerned that a lot of the reporting about the negotiations, or so-called negotiations, leading up to the report that will go on December the 19th to the Secretary General of the Security Council has been quite biased in favor of the possibility that the Albanians in Kosovo, if there is a veto in the Security Council, will declare unilateral independence, and that the United States, followed by some of the European community countries, may indeed recognize that independence. We're here today to talk about the adverse effects this would have, the dangerous precedent it would set, but primarily that unilateral declarations of independence are illegal. We have seen what happened when Ian Smith in Rhodesia declared unilateral independence from England. The British government were alarmed, immediately applied sanctions to Rhodesia, stopped all exports, refused to recognize their passports, and declared Rhodesia an international pariah. But now we have the United States pushing hard to have the Albanians in Kosovo declare unilateral independence so that they can recognize that independence and invite them into the community of democratic nations. Those of you who have been following events in Kosovo surely must realize that if there is one group of people in the world who are less deserving of independence, it's the Albanians in Kosovo. They have ethnically cleansed, since the NATO powers entered Kosovo, almost all of the Serbs, the Gypsies, or the Romans as they're called, non-Albanian people out of Kosovo. They have burned over 150 Christian churches. And I was in Kosovo a year ago, roughly today, and I was ashamed to find that at the beginning of the 21st century, we have ghettos in Europe. The small Serbian communities in Albania, in Kosovo, in the Albanian sections of Kosovo, cannot leave the ghetto. Either they'll be beaten or murdered. Kosovo has a standard of living equal to Haiti's. If it is established as a new state in Europe, it will from the beginning be a failed state. More importantly for Canadians, the declaration of unilateral independence is something that we ourselves have had to deal with, and it led to the Supreme Court declaring in effect that unilateral declaration of independence by separatists in Quebec would not be accepted, and that separation is like divorce. There are two parties at least involved, and all of the provinces and the federal government would have to sit down and negotiate a proper settlement. That led, as we know, to the Clarity Act, which sets out the terms that any province wishing to separate from Canada must meet. In this case, in Kosovo, none of those conditions have been met, and it will set a precedent for people wishing to have independence, like the Kurds, 30 million Kurds, an ancient and honorable tradition, who are still not a country, to declare their independence, followed by groups all around the world can then do it. So it's a dangerous precedent. Our government, the Canadian government, seems determined to follow the American lead and to follow what they will recommend to us to do, and I think that's wrong. But I've said enough. There's room for other people to talk to you today, and I'm very happy to introduce to you the Serbian ambassador to Canada, Ambassador Batkovic, and I'll ask him to come and speak to you and give you some of his views about what might happen in Kosovo if indeed unilateral declaration of independence is recommended. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I'm very honored to be here and to say a few words about the situation in Kosovo, actually about the post-war situation in Kosovo after the June 10th, 1999, when UN administration took over. The general situation for the non-Albanian population in the province of Kosovo became more dangerous than during the war, meaning that more than 60% of the Kosovo Serbs were driven out of the province. 40,000 of their homes were burned or destroyed or usurped by someone else, and some areas are totally cleansed from the Serbs who used to live there for at least 10 last centuries. Secondly, it was also the fate of to be driven out by the Albanian extremists of others non-Albanian population, Roma population, which used to be up to 100,000 and more. It's now reduced to less than 30%. Some other non-Albanian ethnic groups like Muslim, Slav, Serb-speaking Goranis were also expelled at the level of 70%. One of the most striking examples is the case of Pristina, the capital of the province of Kosovo and Metohija, which previously, prior to the war, had 240 to 50,000 inhabitants, out of which 40,000 were Serbs and another 10,000 were Roma. Now Pristina has 500,000 of inhabitants. None of them are Roma, and out of 40,000 Serbs, there were less than 100 of them left living in a single apartment building heavily guarded by the KFOR international military forces. Therefore, this is an ethnic cleansing underway, and only a few small pockets, including the one larger enclave in the north, are still living under the ghetto-like conditions. As the chairman Bisset had said, more than 150 churches have been destroyed by the Albanian extremists in the last 8 years, and almost none of the perpetrators have been found. 1,300 Serbs are missing, another 1,300 have been killed on ethnically motivated basis. Therefore, the Kosovo is dysfunctional entity despite heavy presence of international forces and administration. It's a hotbed of organized crime, women trafficking, and all kinds of illegal activities which are very dangerous for the whole region. And above all, Kosovo itself is not capable of doing any kind of self-governing. Therefore, we think that they should remain within Serbia as they are constitutionally now, and that we should find a kind of power-sharing way of organizing life and slowly reintegrating Kosovo into Serbia.